Yeah, I know. Yeah, Cellar Door is open again this weekend. It's very exciting. I've got to go. I've got to go to drinks. Bye. Bye, everyone. Not getting cheesy at all, is it? But very exciting news for some people anyway. As you saw in my post this week, we are finally allowed to reopen Cellar Door. It's going to be a very different Cellar Door experience for a little while. There's all sorts of rules and regulations, so you can't just come in and taste at the bar in the way that we used to. We are taking bookings for tastings, and we're tasting 4 wines laid out in front of you. So you come in for your booking, you'll have the wine laid out, poured already, sit at your seat. We'll go through the wines, we'll have a talk about them, we'll have a taste, and you can taste them and then move through. And it's going to feel a little bit weird for a little while. I'm quite pleased to be in my little virtual bubble here with you guys at the moment. We're a bit nervous about how the opening up's going to go. We're a bit nervous about how we're going to cope with all the new rules and regulations, but it's really nice to know that we're going to be able to invite people back into our cellar door and look after them in the way that we like to here at Moorooduc. It's also, I think, not time for us to think about finishing this group. We've still got wines to taste. We've still got Thursday nights to celebrate. So I know that I've had from a few of you some interest in continuing with this as we go on. And I know that as the world opens up and borders open, Craig, I know. I think people will find that they've got less and less time to join us here in the virtual tasting room on Thursdays. But I think I'm just working on ways of how we can keep it going, keep it happening, make it work in the real world. So if anyone's got any suggestions or any requests, please feel free to send me an email. I've given out my email address before, but I'll give it to you again. It's Kate, Kate, at moorooducestate.com.au. Send me an email with your suggestions, whether you want to keep doing this when we're all allowed out to play, and yeah, I think it can be fun. I think also for those of you who are a little further away than just a hop, skip, and a jump, it's a nice way to touch base and keep in touch. So I'm working out ways to reach out to other states and possibly some of our international market and that kind of thing. Anyway, enough of that. Hi, Kate. You've got a party. I was hoping this would actually happen as people are allowed to have family over. Kate's got sister, aunt, and uncle with you today. That's fabulous. I hope that the rest of you have got some delicious snacks. I was quite proud of myself when I thought of the fries with the truffle salt, or just normal salt. You could grate a little bit of Parmesan cheese or a bit of Gruyere if you've got it, Jeff, over the top of your oven fries, and that makes for a lovely wintry snack with Pinot Noir. Hey, Kate. Hello, Kay. Lovely to see you. You're the first to log in. Toasty, yum, excellent. Angela. Well, we just need to make time to do this. I was talking to who was I talking to? I was talking to Sarah yesterday when I dropped off some wine for her, and she was saying, because I've had other people say, oh, you should do it later when people can put their kids to bed and that kind of thing. And the whole point of this, partly because I don't have children of my own, I didn't really think of that when we first started, but got to be honest here. But I also think it's a really nice way for you to make that definition between the end of the working day and the beginning of the evening. So, the kids can have a look at their iPads or read a book or, beat each other up or something for half an hour while you sit and have a glass of wine and some snacks with me. I think that's a very civilized thing to do at 5 o'clock. So what are we drinking today? We are drinking Pinot Noir, and it's a very exciting day because we're actually having a new release wine, you guys and me first. So nobody else has tasted this wine at Cellar Door because we haven't been open. We're going to be releasing this at Cellar Door tomorrow when we start tastings again. But you guys are getting a little preview, so yay for you. This is the 2017 Moorooduc Estate Pinot Noir. It's been a long time in the coming, and I'm quite excited about it because 2016 was such a beautiful, voluptuous vintage. It was a really lovely, warm year. Everything ripened beautifully, and the wines are just kind of cuddly and expressive and delicious, which is awesome. But 17 was a little bit different. 17 was one of those vintages, you know, we've talked about this a little bit. It was one of those vintages where we got sort of slightly difficult weather during flowering and fruit set. So it rained a lot. The flowering didn't go off quite as well as we would have liked it. So we got a smaller crop than ideal, or than we would ideally like. But what that meant was that smaller crop. Oh, hi, Jeff. Oh, Kieran. Sorry to miss you, Kieran. Flying off to goodness knows where. Anyway, we'll see you next time. Oh, Craig, that's all right if you drank your 2017. 16's pretty good too. The 16's looking delicious at the moment, actually. So if you've got some of that in your cellar, enjoy it while you can. 17 is a cooler vintage than 16 and a smaller crop. So what we're looking at here is wine that is probably going to be a little darker in its fruit expression, a little bit more structured, maybe a bit more spicy, maybe a little bit less fruity, but I think it'll go really nicely with some snacks. I think it'll be really nice on its own if you haven't bothered with the snacks. I never do the snacks because I don't have time to eat while I'm chatting away to you guys. So, you know, very sad for me, I know. But anyway, let's get this bottle open. Let's get some wine in the glass. Penny's got the half bottle, very sensible. So this is, I should explain to you about our half bottles. Let me get some wine in the glass first. We'll have a little talk about the half bottles. There we go. You'll notice that there's no cracking and popping and there's no fire behind me today because it's been quite a warm, mild day inside. Outside it's been a bit chilly, but this room is incredible in winter when the sun shines in. It gets quite hot. So it can be freezing cold outside, but bright and sunny and clear, and the room just heats up beautifully. The thermal mass is amazing. And so Dad asked if I wanted a fire about an hour ago, and I said, oh, I think that might just make me go red in the face before I have any wine. So we'll pass on the fire today. So half bottles. Jeff, how on earth did you have time to get Moroccan meatballs? Oh, Jill's left her phone. Excuse me for a moment. Very poor telephone etiquette. Hang on a sec. I'm going to answer the phone because this is Sue. She usually is watching. Sue, hi, it's Kate. Why aren't you watching the tasting? I'll have to go because I'm tasting with people, but Jill's gone dog walking. Bye. Oh, dear. Can't get good help around here. Right, Jeff. Jeff is having Moroccan meatballs today. Do you know Jeff left work about 20 minutes ago? So I'm amazed that he's had time to get his Moroccan meatballs all organised. Maybe his mum sorted it out for him or someone nice at home. A gruyere mushroom and caramelised onions on fresh sourdough. Oh, that does sound delicious, Michelle. That sounds beautiful. Okay, so the wine and the half bottles. Yeah, right. Pre-preparing is always the way to go, Jeff. You can see, I know I'm wearing black to go, Jeff. You can see, I know I'm wearing black, which is a terrible colour to see the colour of wine behind. But if I hold it very dark, and if you hold it up in your room, if you're drinking the same wine as me, it's quite deep in colour, quite a lot deeper than the 2016 that we had before. Diane, welcome. Oh, finally, five attempts. Well, I'm glad that you have managed to join us. The Andersons, yes, lovely to see you. Thank you for joining. Thank you for joining. So a little bit darker in colour, and on the nose, it's really interesting compared to the 16. The 16 for me at the moment is looking really cherry fruited, really bright, lifted. And it's got some sort of Moroccan spice and things like this. This is like dark cherries, almost with some sour cherries. And there's some really amazing sort of exotic perfume, like almost like incense. It's very dark, perfumey, but in a spicy, dark, sort of savoury kind of a way, which is, I think, the best way for Pinot to smell. I like it when it's got a little bit of savouriness going on. It's also got some rose petals and some violet in there as well. It's a lot darker and more concentrated than the 16. So before I taste it, I'm going to get back though to our half bottles, because some of you will have this 2017 in half bottles and some of you will have it in a whole bottle, full bottle, and it's all good year that we bottle them. So we don't bottle half bottles every year. We bottle them when we run out of the previous vintage. So the 2017 Pinot is available in half bottles as well as full bottles, whereas the 16 wasn't and the 15 wasn't. So it's a nice opportunity to be able to compare. If you wanted to be really super geeky, like me, you would get a half bottle of 2017 Pinot and a full bottle of 2017 Pinot, and you would imagine, right, that it would be the same because it's the same wine. The wines will taste very, wine ages in the bottle, and half bottles age twice as fast as full bottles. And magnums, which is a double bottle, 1.5 litres of wine, magnums age even slower than a 750ml bottle. So if you're buying wine to cellar, then it's always a good idea to buy either 750ml bottles, or ideally magnums are brilliant for cellaring. Now I say this, we don't make very many wines in magnums. We do a little bit of our single vineyard. We do about 50 magnums of each of our single vineyard wines in a good year. So they're quite hard to get hold of, but magnums are the best way to sell a wine for a reasonably long period of time. Inversely, if you're wanting to drink a wine, then your 750ml bottle. And so those of you, Penny and Kay, who are tasting from the half bottle, scentsy kind of spicy, perfumey character, and a little bit more savoury and earthy. It'll have softened a little bit, but it's still 27 way that you can have a look at a couple of different vintages of our wine without having to wait. So that's the half bottle story at Moorooduc. It's not the best story in the world, but it makes it jewel-like kind of translucency. But the nose is really vibrant, really bright, really opulent, whereas this is a little tighter. It's opening up slowly in the glass. I think this is a wine that would just absolutely sing with truffly flavours, some meaty flavours. And, you know, I think we've all come to the conclusion that Gruyere goes with everything, so that's perfect too. But the mushrooms, definitely. All right, taste the wine. Stop talking, Kate. Taste the wine, for heaven's sakes. It's a great way to finish a Thursday. On the palate, the wine is really, it's really tight. You can feel the tannins are very fine and a little bit more grainy than we usually expect them to be. So it's very textural on the palate without food. It's one of the reasons that I recommended some slightly more flavoursome food today, because I knew, because it's so young and because it's a concentrated and firm vintage, it really appreciates a little bit of food, bit of fat, bit of protein, those kind of things to bring out the fruit and to open up the wine a little bit. Yusuf is asking if I've noticed differences in my wines in different glasses, and absolutely, Yusuf, I have. We talked about glasses on and off during this season of tastings. Should we call it a season? We'll call it a season, this series of tastings. And I think for me, most of our Pinot and Chardonnay, I really enjoy drinking out of this, which is the Pinot glass, which is the Riedel Pinot glass. It's just their basic Pinot glass. I really love, I love what the Pinot glass does for allowing the wine to open up. The idea around, also depending on the shape of the glass, it'll change the angle that the wine enters the mouth, or the science behind different shaped glasses. I hate drinking Shiraz or Cabernet out of this shaped glass. It really seems to enhance the tannins and disperse the aromas and flavours. So I would, in this glass, Sangiovese not so well. So yeah, I think different glasses. I find too big a glass and it gets ridiculous. Too small a glass and it's hard to smell the wine properly and you can't swirl it properly. So, you know, it's a very tactile and beautiful thing to drink a beautiful wine out of a beautiful glass. I also have a little bit of an obsession with teacups at home. So I don't like drinking my tea out of the same cups that I drink my coffee out of. And so a coffee cup for me has to be a certain shape and a certain weight and a certain texture. My teacups, I like to be very fine bone china. They, again, need to be a size and a shape that I'm happy with. So, you know, you can go down that rabbit hole as far and as deep as you like. Yeah, Jasper Morris loves, look, Zalto are beautiful glasses. I have a cupboard full of Riedel glasses and I live on my own. So even when I have friends over, I have plenty of glasses. So if I didn't have so many glasses, I'd probably be tempted to buy some Zalto glasses. But they also Zalto glasses, I don't know, I haven't got one to show you, but if you've ever seen one, they sort of defy gravity. They're big, they're big glasses on very thin, narrow stems, and they look, yeah, Craig, you smashed yours, absolutely. They're supposed to be quite elastic, but when you swirl a Zalto glass from the base, the stem actually bends. It's quite terrifying. And on that, I would also say one of my first tips that I got when I started in the wine industry and started buying expensive, I think they're beautiful glasses, but they're absolutely terrifying. Big tip, drink the wine at night out of the beautiful glass. Don't try and wash it until the next morning. I think things like Zalto glasses, unless you've got a really good dishwasher, I wouldn't put good Riedel glasses in a dishwasher either. I would pop them on the side, leave them till tomorrow when I am no longer feeling tired and emotional, and morning, drink out of them at night, leave them till the morning to wash them. And if you're worried about them staining, you can just put a little bit of water in the bottom of them to rinse them out, but that's all that I would recommend doing. If you put your glasses in the dishwasher, they'll often get scratched. So even if the dishwasher's supposedly around the edges from my dishwasher. So if you can live with that, that's fine. Here at Moorooduc, we've got a dedicated glass washing machine and it's beautiful, but it means you have to pre-wash the glasses and then put them through the washing machine. It's a whole nother thing. Penny, I love Japanese pottery. It is just the most gorgeous thing. And I found I've been to Japan a couple of times and I never get around to, because I usually go to where there's snow that I can slide around on. But I found an amazing shop in Sydney, little shop in Sydney in Surrey Hills that sells candles that have been poured into beautiful handmade Japanese pottery. So you get the candle and you burn it, and when it's finished, then you've got another beautiful Japanese teacup. It's just gorgeous. So Pinot Palooza glass. Yeah, the Pinot Palooza glass is okay, Craig. I think that I prefer this glass personally, but I do have the Pinot Palooza glass, and I use that at home because I've got 2 or 3 of them. I should have 100 of them for all the Pinot Paloozas that I've been to, but yeah, it's a good glass. It's quite big, and I do think it concentrates the nose a little bit more than some others. Hold for long enough. How are people enjoying the wine? It is very young, and I think it's one of those things that in this country, because Pinot Noir production is still a fairly young thing. I mean, the oldest Pinot vineyards in Australia are maybe 40 years old. Craig, what's next week's wine? That's a really good question. Give me a moment. Let me think about that. Jeff, can you help me with next week's wine while I'm talking? what would you say your family Pinot and your single vineyard Pinot would compare to in Burgundy? I've had a few people asking me about Burgundy. We were talking, I got a question about Burgundy with one of the Chardonnays earlier on. And it's a really perplexing, difficult question, because I think in the early days, when there was no other reference point, people would oh, that's great, Shell. In the early days, people would compare New World Pinot to Burgundy because Burgundy is the home of Pinot. But these days, I think I prefer not to. I prefer not to sort of reference because I think that the wine, there are some similarities between Pinot Noir from Burgundy and our wines, but there's a lot of differences as well, and I think they're quite different creatures. When I'm overseas and I'm talking to people who don't know anything about Australian wine, however, we often have the conversation that the Robinson Pinot looks similar to maybe a Volnay, whereas the McIntyre Pinot, which is our other single vineyard Pinot, Gevrey sort of shape than the Volnay reference. But I think that where Burgundy has amazing structure and our wine has beautiful structure, I'll answer that in a second, Yusuf. We have this incredible core of sweet fruit from the Mornington Peninsula that's unique to here, and then we have the spices and the perfumes that kind of build around it, which is different from a lot of other New World Pinots, but also quite different from Burgundy. You've asked me whether I would say our wines are more feminine or masculine, and that's another descriptor that I actually don't like. I don't like going down that path because what is feminine, what is masculine? Yeah, I know some pretty strong women out there, and I know some pretty willowy and elegant young men as well. So the old-fashioned kind of descriptors are sort of masculine being darker and stronger and gruffer and less perfumed, and feminine being prettier and lighter. And I prefer not to use those two descriptors. It just doesn't really sit very well with me. I would say that the McIntyre Pinot is more structured and usually darker fruited. The Robinson Pinot is usually more ethereal. It's got a pure fruited character to it, and it's got a perfumed character to it. So some people might call that a little more feminine. I think that this Pinot Noir that we're tasting today, which is a blend of fruit from the McIntyre vineyard, the Robinson vineyard, and the Garden vineyard, I think this brings everything together in a really complex and lovely way. And there are some aspects of really kind of beautiful lifted perfume here, but also some real kind of muscular tension in there as well. So I think this is really sort of brings a bit of everything in there. I think it's really rather lovely. Penny, I think that the Moorooduc Pinot a little bit lacking in structure and possibly lacking in complexity sometimes. And that's not all Australian Pinot by anyone's argument, but some Pinots, particularly from the areas where it's getting warmer all the time. I think that our climate and our lack of water in this country makes it quite difficult to find good places to grow and make Pinot Noir. And I think it's one of the reasons that the Mornington Peninsula is a really special place for Pinot, because we have that cooling effect from the water on three sides. And I think it does some pretty good things. Now the boys have decided between Jeff and Craig that we'll be doing the Shiraz next week. Now I was going to do a white wine, but I think that we can go straight to Shiraz. I know that was in that first half of that pack. So I think the Shiraz would be a great place to go. I think also, Yusuf, Australian Pinot versus South African Pinot is really hard because we don't get to see very much South African Pinot here, and they get to see almost no Australian Pinot there. So I recommend that anyone, when the borders and countries open up again, I think that we should organise an exchange program between South African and Australian Pinot Noir producers, and we can taste each other's wines and get to understand them. I know that we have been able to show our wines in international tastings in the UK and places like that, and I think that South African Pinot has this really interesting. Yusuf, that would be fantastic. I would love to come and visit you in the Cape sometime. It is high on my list of places to go. I think that would be fantastic, and I will bring some Australian Pinot Noir when I come. I think that's probably about where we should end the conversation. Unless anyone's got any other questions, I think this wine is opening up beautifully in the glass. We've got Shiraz next week, which is quite exciting. We only make a little bit of Shiraz. So our little Shiraz is going to possibly, if you haven't tasted it before, it might come as a little bit of a shock to you, but we'll talk about that next week. Until then, I've heard the dogs have come back, and my brother's little yippy dog is here as well. So she's going to come in here barking in a minute. So I think that's probably a good place to end. It's been lovely having a drink with you guys again. Enjoy your evening. The sun has just dropped below the horizon and the sky is a beautiful orange. So enjoy and have a lovely rest of your evening, and I'll see you all again next week. Wish us luck for Queen's birthday weekend. We're a little bit terrified that we're going to be inundated with visitors. I think there's going to be a lot of Melburnians who are very excited about getting into their cars and driving down to the peninsula. I believe the weather's going to be appalling. So I personally would stay home by the fire, but don't let me talk you out of coming down to visit if you feel like it. Cheers, everyone. And I'll either see you sometime in Cellar Door, or I will see you back here in the virtual tasting room with a bottle of Shiraz next week. Cheers, everyone. Thank you very much.